What's going on, everybody? It's your man Chuck Creekmer, aka Jigsaw, and allhiphop.com is here with a pair of legends, MC Debbie D and Mr. Wave. Two of the
Hey,
two of the people I used to, still do love. But first of all, Mr. Wave, I gotta say, it's my first time meeting you. It's a true honor and a privilege. Debbie D, we're friends, and you're one of the most thorough, sincere people I've ever come across in hip
Oh,
hop.
thank you.
So it's really an honor to talk to you both and to pay homage to Mr. Harry Belafonte, aka Mr. B, who we lost recently. So the first thing I want to ask you guys as we get into the conversation is just give folks a brief overview of who you are and what you are to the culture.
Well, my name is MC Debbie D. I'm one of the matriarchs of the culture, which basically means one of the mothers because I show up so early in the game, which is in the 70s from the South Bronx, Webster Houses. And that's where I started at on the mic. I'm a native Harlem girl, but I showed up in the Bronx in 1976 and hit the mic in 1977.
That's a fact. And how about you, Mr. Wade?
my name is Mr. Wave, and my group was called the New York City Breakers. We were at that time one of the influential breakers on the planet.
Hmm.
And I am too bred from the Bronx, born and raised out of the Bronx, and traveled a lot and done a lot for the culture. And that's because of the catalyst, Harry Belafonte.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I want to sing the New York City Breakers song,
The New
but I
York
won't. I won't. I won't sing it. I want to.
Well, if you sing it, you have to sing my part then.
I know. I
Just
know.
us girls on it.
I know. I don't want to embarrass myself right now, but just know I know the song. I know the song.
I hear you.
Yeah, definitely. Um. So let's talk a little bit. Well, before we talk about B Street, let's talk about hip hop real quick. On your thoughts on this 50-year anniversary, um this landmark period in the culture as well as in American culture, not just Black history and Brown history. What are you guys thoughts about the 50th anniversary of hip hop?
Well, I'm in high celebration, as most pioneers probably confess, and I would say with them, we never thought it would really get this far. For years as a kid, they kept telling us that it was going to be a fad. So we functioned on that level, though we did what we did and we loved what we did, and we did it, continuously every day in the summertime and also every weekend on the weekends and everything. But we really didn't think it would really live out for 50 years. And so this is a high time for us. And I'm proud to say, as a pioneer, as a matriarch, along with all my brothers and sisters who are pioneers, we are the only ones who can really say that we're celebrating 50 years. So
Mm.
I'm honored just to be able to say that. So it's an exciting time.
Yeah, and I agree with Debbie. I think that, the fact that it is recognized on a global level is necessary. It allows lessons. It allows people to know what we've done for the culture and what it took to get here. It allows us to educate the babies and have them understand how important 50 years in itself is important. Any genre holding 50-year banner is really dope. But the fact that it's a culture that we started, if you think about demographics, you think about you know the way that technology is today, it wasn't there for us, and we still here. You
Yes.
know,
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Were you finished? Did you
I've said enough.
you sure? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
I think it's hard for people to understand that period of time. I wasn't there for a lot of it, but I can say that I was earlier than most.
Mhm.
And it was amazing to witness hip hop on that at that time becoming a global phenomenon, which a lot of people in America probably didn't even know it was going global, and that people in other places like Croatia or something were dialed in. So let's jump straight to Beach Street, the movie, the seminal movie produced by Mr. Harry Belafonte, and talk to me about how you became a part of it.
Well, I became a part of it because at the time I was coming off the heels of being hip hop's first female soloist and being a part of a male crew in my early years, which was DJ Patty Duke and the Jazzy Five. I had done shows, of course, with Lisa, that was a part of the Cosmic Force at the time. I had done shows with Shy Rock, who was a part of the Funky Four and the Funky Four Plus One at the time. And so around 83, in the height of my soloist years, that's when Shy Rock reached out to me and said, hey, what do you think about me, you and Lisa getting together? And I was doing pretty well at the time. Me and my DJ Wanda D, who was also in the movie, was with me at the time. And so when she pitched it to me, I just started thinking, well, if I'm doing this on this level with success, imagine what I could do if these other two pioneer female MCs, rock with me. And so I pitched it to Wanda and she said, hey, let's do it. And so we decided to do it. And like most people talk about how they got an opportunity to go down to the Roxy where they were holding a lot of their auditions, me, Lisa, and Sha felt like, listen, if anybody's going to be in it and they're going to be girls, it's going to be us because we're the girls that's at the top of the game. Everybody knows us. And I often like to tell people that people knew us in our own right. We didn't get together for the movie, but people knew us in our own right. We all carried our own reputations and everything. And just the three of us coming together was an explosion. And so hearing about the movie, we just decided we were going to go down there and talk to Harry Belafonte. Now, I'm a 60s baby. So, I grew up with knowing all about him and the Banana Boat song and seeing him on TV, and particularly, doing stuff with Sidney Poitier, seeing him walking and working with Dr. Martin Luther King, all of that, doing the civil rights movement. But knowing that he was a part of that, and I was literally going with the girls to go talk to such a major figure, was very moving for me. And so, but I when I think about it now, I'm thinking, I don't even know what we were thinking. To think we're not even going for an interview. We're going literally to say to him, you got to put us in it. And believe it or not, as bold as we were to make that move, we did it. And that's how we got in the movie.
Wow. That's amazing. Amazing. How about now, Mr. Wave, what's your story? What's your
For
story?
me, it's a little different.
Okay, I figured as much. Okay.
So my first show ever coming out of the projects was for Catherine Dunham and Ronald Reagan at the in Washington. So we're on the plane headed back, and we got a call from someone on Harry's team saying that we need you guys to be in this movie. Harry would like to see you guys. They were auditioning, so everyone's auditioning. We never auditioned. They asked us for a viewing. It was Harry and his daughters and the Stan and all of the producers behind the curtain, while thousands of people were auditioning. And so for my second show ever was a movie. It just blew me away. It allowed me to gain what they call insight. Harry opened some doors. So for that experience, I was maybe named Mr. Wave a month.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a month before Harry discovered that he wanted or decided he wanted the New York City Breakers in this movie to be the Beach Street Breakers under the leadership of our guy Lee, who wasn't actually a New York City Breaker. So yeah, that's how we became part of Beach Street.
Got it. That's really amazing because I just assumed you were already the king of New York wave popping and all that.
Dr. Electric was my original. I was a Electric Boogie Boy.
Right.
A lot of people don't know that.
Right. I did.
You know it now.
I know it now. So real quick, the New York City Breakers, how big were they in New York at that time?
The New York City Breakers was larger than before I joined them. They're already established. Okay. So they already danced for they did a 16 Candles, the film 16 Candles. They did the Gladys Knight video. They were doing shows and touring, but Michael Holman wanted to put a dope crew together that no one has ever seen. So he
Right.
handpicked all of us, and I was seventh of eighth, or sixth of eighth, to be picked. And that's the seal of the original New York City Breakers. But Michael Holman was the brainchild behind it.
Michael Holman. We that's a whole
Graffiti
nother,
rock.
that's a whole nother interview, a whole nother
Every,
conversation. But
yes,
he,
sir.
he deserves some flowers for sure.
But what I can tell you in regards to Harry Belafonte and what he, as a gentleman, as a man, as a catalyst, did for us. He inspired us in different ways. Where he showed Lee and Debbie affection. He allowed some of us to generate this energy. He allowed some of us to create, and he leaned on some of us, like the Melly Mels of the world.
Yep.
He was very good at what he did. He was skillful, but he allowed some of us to grow, like me, and gain insight. It's just a very powerful man. And the fact that he merged hip hop and our culture with art. And when you combine the two, you got something called Beat Street.
Right.
Right, Dad?
Absolutely. I think it was phenomenal when I think about him. When we did our scene in Beach Street, me and the girls, we just kind of did our scene. And I think we kind of showed up again toward the end of the movie. And then we came back for the premiere. And it was at the movie's premiere that you really got a chance to see all of these different characters and to see the movie in the fullness at one time. But it was at the time I was just 21 years old, so I didn't process a lot of things. But as I got older and I began to look at the movie, one of the things that impressed me the most is how Harry Belafonte pulled on his resources. And what I mean by that is when you look at Kenny, who is the star of the show as the DJ, and he is the son of Ruby Dee and Ozzie Davis, which are amazing Black actors and actresses, and I thought that was phenomenal. And then you have Ray Don Chong, who is the daughter of Chong of Cheech and Chong. That, these are people we grew up watching.
Yeah.
And so I like the fact that he pulled on his resources to do that. And some other people in the movie as well. But, those are the stars that stuck out. Even his daughter, you see Gina in the Roxy scene coming up. Yeah, she's coming up the ramp. I just think, that kind of just taught me that, you don't always have to reach outside, but you can reach inside your own circle with your own people. This is where your resources really are. Go ahead, Wave, jump in.
And Gina was she's standing right on 2-3 people from the battle. She's right there. He placed her there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yes. So what Harry was able to do is because he took a chance on us.
Yes.
He took a chance on hip hop.
Yeah.
And he wanted all of the elements there. See, we don't live in the elements anymore, the 5 elements of hip hop. That's why our younger generation is missing, because I knew how to rap, I knew how to break dance, I knew how to pop, I knew how to hear music. I've been in studios. That's gone. Harry realized that was a key component to the culture. But what can I add to this culture, because it should not die here?
Right.
And therefore you bring on these heavy hitters who he made them really popular later on.
Yes,
me and Debbie, the heavy hitters, all the people that we've just named, it's all contributed to Harry.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And again, like I said, him using his star power, as a young kid growing up in Harlem, again, he was a name in the face. Everybody knew the Banana Boat song, Dave. Everybody grew up with that song.
Yeah.
And seeing him on TV and, all of those popular movies and TV shows and everything. But again, to say there's something going on underground in the South Bronx in particular, Beach Street is basically focusing in the Bronx scenes is in the South Bronx. And of course, we know at that time the buildings were burning down. There was a lot that was going on, but he used his own star power. He is a star. And for him to put his own impression on it, is what one of the reasons why, again, as Wave said so poignantly, that allowed us to get our stardom. When I look at it now, I say to myself, my legacy is tied to his legacy. What an
Exactly.
honor, because he was just such a great man. So when you look at Jet Magazine and you look at all of these different publications that you have today with his face on it, he didn't have to do that. He could have stayed behind the scene. And let me just say this, and I'll let Wave jump back in, or you, Jig. Most people may not know, but you also have Stanley Lathan. Stanley Lathan
Yes.
is the father of Sanaa Lathan, the actress. I don't even know if she was born when we did B Street, or she probably was just a little girl. But I believe he was behind Sanford and Son, and again, all of those movies and TV shows that we saw growing up as children. Stan Layton was one of the persons who had produced those movies. So again, pulling from his resources, and I think that was a great thing.
Yeah, no, that's a fact. Yeah, so much to unpack there, but from my vantage point, everything about B Street was amazing, and I learned later about Harry Belafonte's involvement and the behind the scenes Stan Lathan, and all the little nuances and things. What was your interact? Did y'all interact with him personally on the set or after? How were those interactions, if any?
I think the most that I've interacted with him, I believe, is probably during the time when we came to the Roxy, and maybe he was on a set in that abandoned building. A lot of people don't know it was one of where we shot our scene at, and Wave is in that scene as well. In the building, it was literally one of the abandoned buildings in the South Bronx, and it literally was cold in there. I don't know if you remember that, Wave, but it was
freezing. I had that striped sweater on and they gave me. I didn't like that sweater, but okay.
they gave us all the clothes that we had, myself, Sha, and Lisa, and I often tell people, because I come on with my rhyme about being the fly girl Debbie D. Yeah, I'm looking like a punk rocker.
Yeah.
And
you didn't dress like that.
I'm like,
they didn't dress us for the train station scene. Okay. They allowed us to wear it. So everybody when we battled in the train station, we all brought that from home.
Okay.
So what you see, right. Could you imagine?
I mean, my hair was beef from Jerry's Den, curl and perm in Harlem, and I'm leather from head to toe. And they're like, okay, you're going this way to wardrobe. They did our makeup. It was the first time I actually wore makeup.
Wow.
Very first time. So, it was all black makeup artists and everything. But the interacting with him again, I think for me was mainly when we first went to the Roxy. So I didn't really have that much interacting, and probably doing the premiere, because we took a lot of pictures and things like that.
And for us, it was, again, when we got chauffeured in straight through the front door to the back room. We're isolated with Harry and his family, and he tells us how he's inspired by us, how great we were. So we already went into the film feeling like, we belong in this space.
Yeah.
We belong in this position. We are the new, and I was brand new New York City Breakers, and we went in there as a family, and that was because of that interaction.
Right.
Because we were kids having fun prior to that.
Yeah.
So that conversation, that meeting made it very serious for us, very personal.
Right.
And I think, if I can just say this really quickly, just on the heels of what Wave is saying, that personal touch, even though we didn't get that much interaction with him that we wanted to get, at least for me, I think the personal touch came in with the fact that he allowed girls to have space in the movie. And when you look at the movie, we are the first act in the movie. We're singing a song, and we also appear.
You're the queens of the movie.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're the queen.
It's not like, we just regulated to the back, or we just standing off to the side. He really allowed our faces to come full on the screen, and I appreciate him doing that. So that's a different way you can touch people, by giving them space to do something.
And by the way, I got to admit, everybody had a massive crush on all of y'all, all three of us girls. I'm just gonna keep it real.
That's true story.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true story.
You are
Yeah.
y'all still crushing now? Are y'all
Yeah,
crushing?
yeah,
Are y'all crushing?
of course, of course. No, that's a
Because we're
fact.
still holding it down and we're
Hold,
still looking good, all
holding
three
it
of us.
down. No, that's a fact. No, that's hip hop too. That's a part of it. Holding it down wherever you are in life.
Yes, sir.
Exactly.
So here's a quote from Mr. B. He says when he was creating Beach Street, or producing, he said he wanted to create a movie that showed uh well, excuse me, I take that back. He said that the media rather depicted the Bronx as a place of violence seeped in
Mhm.
hopelessness, and he wanted to create a movie that countered that notion of hopelessness. uh what do you guys think about that, as far as the messaging in Beach Street?
I think it's true story. I think films, first of all, are hard to make. Let me just tell you why. Harry did not, and I make films today or documentaries, and I learned that from the movie Beat Street and Harry's style.
Okay.
When you create a film, you have to concentrate on the masses.
Hmm.
Mhm.
It's not regulated to a culture or a genre.
Hmm.
Mhm.
He was able to accomplish that. And I tell people every time that I speak to, when I say they go to film, they complain about what Hollywood needs. And they don't understand. Harry understood, if you get 80% of your story in there and 20% of Hollywood, you win it.
Exactly.
Right.
Harry won.
Well said. When
That's
you
a
think of
great
the
way to put
masses.
it.
Yeah, I say the same thing, Wave. You had to be strategic in how you presented it if you wanted it to go over on a global scale.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
I think that's one of the reasons why, even though in Hollywood standards, it didn't do that well in the box office. But once it actually hit Blockbuster, if anybody remember that place, once it hit those DVDs, those kids never returned those DVDs back.
Mm.
And now it's on a global scale. We're still getting paid from it. We still get the residuals to be able to see from SAG, all the different places where it was at. And I think that was only because Hollywood realized and Harry realized I need to make sure that I do it in a way where it's palatable for a larger audience. And
It
again,
showed.
knowing that from his own background and his own experience in Hollywood is what makes him so awesome about
Well,
being the perfect person to do it.
well, Debbie, you gotta understand. B Street is showing every Thanksgiving,
Yes, it is.
Christmas.
And Christmas too.
Christmas.
Christmas too.
Yeah.
Yes, it
Every
is.
holiday.
Every
Yeah, I
holiday.
always tell people it's the number one Christmas movie. You
Yes.
know, Sometimes A Christmas Story is one that I say is up there as well. But when it comes to the ones that when we start talking about the
Us.
non-conventional Christmas movies, sometimes they'll say the Bruce Willis movie, Die
Die
Hard.
Hard.
Yeah, it's a Christmas movie. I'm like, yeah, yeah, all right, cool. But so is Beach Street. Never
Yeah.
forget.
Yes, Beach Street.
If
Yeah.
you're a hip hop head,
Pretty
you
dope.
definitely
Oh
want to
my
look at
God!
that.
Don't get me started on Kumo D and the Treacherous Three doing the Christmas rap with Dougie Fresh.
Yes. I
Man,
Yeah.
show that
listen,
to kids today.
huh?
I show that to kids today when I'm
Yeah.
teaching in the
I
schools.
actually spoke to
Absolutely. I
Kevin.
pull out all those things.
I actually spoke to Special K today.
Oh
You
wow.
know.
Okay.
Oh yeah. And their mourning. I mean, they understand the weight of this.
Yes.
But yeah, we spoke about Beach Street and the
Mhm.
intricate parts in Beach Street and what actually how it propelled us. And they all understand. I spoke to Dougie about it. He
Mhm.
totally gets it and understand. It was interesting because Gina called me last year
Mhm.
and Doug for Harry's 95th birthday.
Right.
And she asked us to do her a favor. And she asked us would we perform for Harry. And we did.
Mhm.
We got down there and we were on a stage with the great ones, Spike Lee, and I mean you could name them. They all were there, and that's when I saw the and I'm not going to use the word power, but the influence
Yeah.
Mhm.
of such a great man. And when we were on that stage and me and Doug lit it up because we performed together. I came out first, he came out second.
Okay.
And just Gina, and I just want to pivot for a second.
Mhm.
The love,
Mhm.
the growth that he allowed her to experience,
Yeah. Mhm.
and me coming out of the Bronx and not getting any of that. It
Mm.
was still a it was still a moment that I was able to be out of body. That's
Right.
the power and the strength of a Harry Belafonte that, constantly when I get around that influence, I'm able to say, hey man, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely. Yeah. No, shout out to Gina. I've been privileged enough to know Gina and go to her home at one point. I was blessed to see Mr. B's gold plaque on the wall, which is really
Mhm.
platinum at this point, and him being, and really seeing that history. And then when we were in COVID, being a part of some of the virtual conversations and seeing how wonderful of a person she is.
Mhm.
Truly is.
So yeah, so my heart goes out. Um, and on the same token, to have that wonderful man as a father is a blessing that most people can't conceptualize, and to have him for such a long time. I mean, not to say that you're not mourning, but it's
Right.
a true blessing.
And again, he was a natural father to her, but
Mhm.
again, to a lot of us in the Bronx,
Mm,
who grew up in, one parent homes and, a
mhm.
lot of struggle, he was like a father figure to us. Like I said, we are baby boomers. We come up in the 60s. So yes, we got a chance to come face to face to him in a movie, but we got a chance to see him move and maneuver as a civil rights person, to see him maneuver as a humanitarian, as an activist. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
His name was not foreign. I remember going to work telling my boss, I'm going to be in a movie with Harry Belafonte. Now, he's not even in the movie, but I'm putting his name out there
Right.
Yeah. I'm doing a
because that's
doc.
how much he meant to me. And hearing him on WLIB with Gary Bird, I mean, it was a poignant moment for me in particularly.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
So
Wade. You going to say?
the reason I say Catalyst is because that's a heavy brand.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna it's a really short story. Harry Belafonte was an influencer. He was a reason for something that happened in our lives that's major. I'm doing a documentary of Khalid, the one Hip Hop 101 Museum, and in this documentary, he has this document, and the document has three signatures on it. It has Harry Belafonte's signature on it, Sidney Poitier, who was his boy, and it had Jackie Robinson. Those three got together and put the money together to bring 55 Africans over to the United States.
Mm.
Well, one of those guys, and they went to Harvard, went to college. One of them became very, very famous. And I know you don't know who it is. I'm going to tell you. He
Okay.
brought he brought Barack Obama's father over.
That's what I was about to say, but
But
yeah.
you didn't. You don't get the point. I'm just kidding.
No, no, go, go,
Is
go.
that not amazing? So there would be no black president without
Yeah.
Harry Belafonte.
I
I'm just saying,
no,
He
no.
did a lot.
Yeah, yeah,
lot.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
No, but that's and I don't want to stray too far, but that's what paving it forward is,
Mm,
right? Like that's the definition of it. And sometimes I feel like we don't do that anymore. I feel like the capitalism in America has taken over black people,
mm,
and
good.
now
Sure.
it's just me, 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 me.
Yes.
When back then, even before Harry Belafonte and folks like that, Harriet Tubman and so on and so forth, they were like, "Oh, I'm doing this for the
My
next
people.
generation and the
Yes.
next generation."
Willing
And
to die.
huh?
Willing to die.
Absolutely. I
Did
mean,
be a
and
sacrifice.
he essentially gave up his career in service. Um, uh,
Wow.
I mean, he was a
So much.
superstar, a megastar.
Yeah.
But
And putting. Mhm.
Jig, I was just gonna say, and paying it forward. I know you say a lot of it is not happening today, but that's part of what hip hop is about. Paying it forward and pulling other people to the forefront. And I want to just pause and thank you because that's what you're doing, through this platform right here that you have. Again, it's your resources. You used your resources and said, hey, Debbie, come on, hey, Mr. Wave, come on, and through this platform, other young people will get a chance to see because this is documentation of what it was like for us in our young years to connect with someone. So you're paying it forward. We're paying it forward. And
Yeah,
thank you so much for doing that.
Yeah.
definitely. I appreciate that. Yeah. Well, that's what we do. That's what we do.
You know what
So
else Harry did?
what? What do you do? What do you do?
I had never been out of the country,
Mm,
Right.
and he took us to Nice
Wow.
to the film festival to premiere Beat Street.
Yeah.
He
mm.
took a lot of us to
He didn't take
perform in
us,
the
but go
tour.
ahead.
I'm sorry. He took the Soul Sonic Force, Bam and the Force. He took us and Rocksteady, and basically to a different few platforms and countries to show he would not let it die.
Right.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
understand what I'm saying? When I say catalyst, I mean he would not stop it. He didn't rely on just the film industry.
That's
He
Hmm.
right.
marketed, self-marketed
Yeah.
this platform, and he was the reason, and people don't like to say it, for globalism. He was
Mm,
the
Absolutely.
reason
mm.
that people knew Mr. Wave around the
The
world
world. That's right.
instantly. It
Yeah.
was my gift that allowed me to still be here and succeed, but
Hmm.
it was his platform that I was able to not even walk on, to ride on
Yes.
to success. And everybody should understand that, right, Dad?
Absolutely. And again, as I said, we didn't get a chance to go to Nice as you opportunity. However,
I'm
we
so
did
sorry.
go global because us girls and New York City Breakers shared the same manager, was Mr. Michael Holman, which a lot of people didn't know. And he put a tour together, and that's how we went to France. So we became the first girls not only to be on screen and to inspire girls around the world, and particularly with that song saying us girls can
Mm,
boogie too or do it too. But we got a chance to go to France and, take
Yeah,
hip hop as females and put it on a global scale. So
definitely.
yeah, it's just phenomenal. He
it
did
is.
a lot. I think that's a great point, Wave, that he didn't just let it stay on the film, but he said, "Hey, I'm in it for the long haul." How they say it, I'm all in. Harry Belafonte was all in. He
Did
was
you guys know he worked as a janitor in the South Bronx for a period of time?
I
I read
didn't.
that just recently. I
Yeah.
read that.
Amazing.
Yeah, early
Okay.
in his years, like teenage years or something
Yeah,
like that.
I found that out just
Wow.
today. Yeah. So, he's from the, I don't want to
He's
say from the
from,
mud, but he's of the people, I should
yeah.
say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was able to relate, growing up in Harlem a little bit, as a young kid and seeing the struggle of his own people there. And then again, working in the Bronx, he's been in the hood, if we could
Yeah.
use that term. So he knows what it's like to see the struggle. And again, I think that's one of the things that motivated him and moved him to say, I want to highlight what these kids are doing. I know everybody else saying it's gonna die, it's not important, this and that. But I'm sure he remembers the time when people said a lot of things about him and Sidney Poitier.
Yeah.
When you remember your own struggle, you don't mind putting out a hand to say I'm going to help somebody else up because I remember what it was like to be there. And I believe through B Street, that's what Mr. Harry Belafonte did for us.
Those well, first of all, Mr. Wade, those scenes, those battles, w- how real were those battles? It always felt
Look at
like
his face.
they
He's ready.
were there was
They
no
were not, they weren't scripted.
they felt okay. Go
Let me
ahead.
give you an example. Think about it this way. We've just danced for a president. Rocksteady, who Michael Holman also helped create,
Yes.
was traveling as well. We were considered in the world, and I say world because it was not around the world yet, one and two. You put one and two on a movie screen,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
so it was a real battle. They stopped the movie, if you remember, Debbie. They had to stop
Mhm,
that scene.
mhm,
They hired Michael Holman in to shoot it because it was going to be off the cuff. And when they shot it, they used 6 cameras, six different angles, and that wasn't done before. That was Michael's genius.
Mhm.
Harry allowed him to create as well. So when we started the battle, if you look at the movie again, I'm gonna give you specific scenes.
Okay.
When Lee is looking up, that's
Mhm.
not because we were losing, because we wouldn't let him out.
Okay.
We will not let Lee out because it's the New York City Breakers, and he wasn't one against Rocksteady crew. Secondly, if you look at me when I'm dancing, I go all the way down,
Yeah.
and those jumps out. That was disrespect in the
Mhm.
South Bronx.
mhm.
So I almost slapped those. And
Mm.
that's when I spin around and throw my hands down. I'm
Mhm.
I'm I'm 3
Mhm.
months in,
Right.
from the 9. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? Webster Avenue. And I'm
Right.
like, dude, let me finish my thing. You know what
Right.
you're doing, you know? And so I felt disrespected. So that scene, and then they stopped the movie.
Okay.
And they the producer, I forgot his name, he says, we're gonna edit this to make it look even.
Okay.
So you guys, if you don't stop, and we wouldn't let Lee out, you can clearly see we weren't doing the right things.
Right.
It was only 2 takes. As you saw, and you can ask Legs, they got crushed. The New York City Breakers were overconfident. We were smiling, and let me tell you why. The conversation that Harry had with us when we first walked in, that he might not have had.
Okay.
You see my point?
Yeah.
We were overconfident. We were strong. We just came off the president, and it was all of our styles were just totally different. And Rocksteady had never saw me.
Right. Right.
So
that was
they
their
was
first
just
time
in
seeing
shock.
you?
First time seeing me.
Wow.
And then I go up to them and I tick in and I spin and I go down and I'm looking at them in their face. They weren't ready for that.
Those are battle moves right there, G.
Thank you, baby.
Battle moves in South Bronx.
Oh, snap.
Yeah.
Yo,
And you know,
man.
I show that scene, you know, working with New Jersey Pack. I go into a lot of different schools as a teaching artist. And so when I first introduced them to breakdance, I show that B Street scene. And then I always ask them, who do you think won? The guys in the blue or the guys in the red? I'm not gonna tell you what they said. It's a different answer every time.
So you know why? Because of what you just said. Legs taking his shoes off at the end of he said he had to do something. And he told Kenny, I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna try something. And he said he unloosened his shoes. And he made that ploy. That first time he had ever done that, taking off his shoes. So if people don't know our culture and the structure and how difficulty of the moves, they would say that won it for Rocksteady. And they say that generally because I was the only B-boy in the movie in the 2 crews that won it for the New York City Breakers. But I have to be totally honest about something. Powerful Pexter was the baddest B-boy on the planet back then. The most feared. He's the one that come out first, get on his knee and look at them like this is nothing.
Yeah, I look at it now, honestly, and I'm like,
you right, Debbie?
I'm 60, and I'm like, I'm telling the kids, did y'all see that? Did y'all see that? You're right.
Insane. He was a combination king.
Yeah.
So it was edited, by the way. So what you got was the best in that movie, the best of Rocksteady, but you didn't get all of us, but it was just that simple. You pretty much, we almost was non-edited. If you notice, we were coming out in a row, but Legs came out 4 times. It didn't happen like that in the movie. It came out one at a time, like we came out one at a time. So they're able to take a chunk of ours. I only know this because I'm an edit now, and I do documentary.
You understand it,
yeah. And there they had to kind of piece them together.
Gotcha.
To match, you know. So I respect, you know, the game. I respect,
and
Hollywood.
let me just jump in here because I know it's guys on both sides, but there is one girl in the Rocksteady crew. So I just want to give a shout out to the one girl that I'm always telling the kids, that's a girl right there.
Yes, ma'am.
So girls can do it too.
Y'all remember her name?
Baby.
Yeah, Baby Love, I think something
Baby
like
Love.
that. Or Baby D or something. I can't remember.
Baby Love. Baby Love.
Baby Love, yeah.
Yeah, the Baby Love.
I don't
Shout
know.
out to her.
And when you talk about us girls, Debbie, you spoke a little bit about the scene itself, but can you talk about the vision, the vision of intention to have that scene there, like, and what it means today?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. Well, the first thing is when we first met Harry Belafonte at the Roxy, we were not called Us Girls. We were called Empress. It was the name that we came up with. back in the day before all of that, Lisa Lee used the term queen. I used the term queen, and we never had any issues to this day. You know, she say queen MC, I say queen MC, a queen rapper. But so we were called empress because we thought of ourselves as the queens. We were the top of the line, you know, above everybody. And so when we got to the movie and we begin to go to the studio to perform the song and learn the moves and all of that kind of stuff. The name of the song, as you know, was Us Girls Can Boogie Too. We didn't think too much of it at the time because it really didn't have that hip hop swag to it,
Yeah.
you know. And they said, okay, here's the space where you can do your thing and say whatever it is that you wanted to say. It took a few years before I actually realized what they were really trying to convey. And the
Girls.
point there, exactly, Wave, and the point there was to really say to girls, again, globally around the world. You see all these guys doing it because, come on, let's admit, hip hop is male dominated, but girls can do it too. And what I like about that is, and particularly today, is that girls don't necessarily at this particular time frame have to be an MC or a B girl or a graffiti artist. Girls are now behind the cameras. They are directing. You know, girls are doing so many different things. They're authors. They're journalists. They're doing so many different things. I'm doing so many different things now. But I'm grateful to be able to say that the words of that song is what inspired a lot of these girls that came behind us, who are great in the 80s and the 90s, doing what they're doing, came because they were inspired. Moni Love is one of the most I would say out front female MCs who actually at the time saw the movie in her home country of London, who actually have continually confessed. When I saw that movie, when I saw Debbie D, Sharrock, and Lisa Lee, I wanted to be an MC. You know, and she has held on to that story, you know, consistently. And so that's what it did. It was something that became a catalyst to inspire girls all over the world to move out into this culture we call hip hop and to take their place and to use their voice. And that's also the name of my nonprofit organization, which actually came from the movie called Us Girls Can. So let me just say this really quickly. In the midst of us filming the movies, they kept saying, where's those us girls? Where's those us girls? Where's those us girls? And it just became catchy. And that's how we became the Us Girls.
Nice, nice. Wanted to ask y'all about so I'm not a native New Yorker. I was born and raised in Delaware, and I moved to New York in the year 2000.
Okay.
Up until that point, you know, it was all about getting to New York. Now
Why
here's the
you want to
thing.
come over here with us?
Come on, man. I'm hip hop to the bone marrow. That's why. That's why. But it, you know, when I moved to the city and I immersed myself in the culture, things, well, I would hear weird things, right? Like one pioneer who shall remain nameless, you know, I think I said to him something about Run DMC being, you know, my favorite or something. And then he would be like, oh, well, they took this from this and they did that and that. And I'm like, oh, hey, I don't even want to hear what you got to say right now. Run DMC is it. But with Beat Street, uh, there were grumblings. There were people who had things to say, like, oh, this ain't what it was. This ain't how it was. This was not real. This is not what we lived. Things of that nature. And for us, it was the best movie we ever saw. What were y'all's views then and now?
Well, and you can ask each one of us and get a different answer.
Mm-hmm.
So me and Pex were sitting side by side when we saw it in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, what I understand now is growth. I did not understand then
Mm-hmm.
because we grew up in battle, but we grew up in battle on the streets. We grew up in battle in the household. We grew up in battle in our everyday day-to-day lives. We didn't grow up with support. support.
Mhm.
That's your 20% Hollywood.
Mhm.
So everybody getting around Ramo and the girl and that, I think that was, and then at the end, believe me, those are the two things that we had to grow. It wasn't that girls, we grew up around girls doing it, you know what I mean? Just wasn't a lot of them. But we did not grow up in that environment. And to understand Hollywood, you would understand why he had to do that.
Mhm.
So the hip hop story, the true story, has never been told. Let's
Mhm.
just keep it real. You can't talk about Wild Style, B Street, or Crush Groove. The story hasn't been told. My goal is to tell the story. And you can't tell this story without at least 25 consultants
Mhm.
of hip hop legends.
Pioneers, at least,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's what those are the consultants, the
Mhm.
pioneers and the legends because of demographic. Because we were not able to be in the same location at the same time to witness the same thing.
Mhm.
So Harry did the best he could for the time that he had, and he got some pretty talented people that still exist today. So those are naysayers who everybody wants perfection, and so my view, and this is the view I stand, and this is the stance and the view I take. There also is a lot of jealousy because we did a movie that magnified our abilities that took us from New York City Breakers, and I'm just going to be honest, and it's because of Harry. We were not the street dancers ever again. I danced with 3 presidents. We danced with kings and queens. Been all over the world. We went for $10,000 a show in '85. We had to split ourselves up to go around the world after Beach Street.
Right.
That's because of that man.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah, my response to that is I'm gonna hold up this book that is
Put it in
written.
the front of
In
your
front
face.
of you
Let me
Give us
see.
the
now.
angle. Uh-oh. It's not, I don't know why, but it's
It says
Well,
hip
it says
hop.
hip hop at the bottom,
okay.
Yes.
and it's the book that's written by Steve Hager. Steve Hager is the original writer of the movie Beach Street. The whole idea actually come from Stephen Hager, and this is his book. You know, you might be able to find it on Amazon. But what people will find is that the originally writing was more gritty. However, as Wave said again so poignantly, which is very true, Harry Belafonte, in his own expertise, understood I cannot present this to Hollywood and allow it to move on a global scale. So he had to do things to scale it back, not necessarily water it down, but give it a story, give it a plot, integrate things here and there in order to get it to move. I didn't understand it myself when I was younger, but now that I'm older, I understand it extremely well. And I just think it's par excellence the way that he was able to maneuver that and to put all of the elements in it to get all of us
Man.
even integrated into the movie and still have a story. And for the most part, for me, to still be able to get paid 40 years later.
And so, to Debbie's point, does not mean he had the idea of the elements. It
Right.
means he was listening.
Right.
As
When people
large as
say get this
I
thing,
learned
get
that
that.
too, as large as
Yeah.
he was humble
Yes,
enough to listen. And
true.
he brought people in that were great at what they did so he could listen and take in. And that's why the elements showed up in such
That's
a
true. Because when it first started, it wasn't like I want these people, like us girls wasn't thought of. But
Yeah.
when we showed up there and we made our case,
Yeah.
and other people, of course, said absolutely you got to get them. Our own brothers and sisters, our own male pioneers came and said that. And that's how we got in the movie. And other people got into the movie. Originally, Melly Mel wasn't in the movie. Melly
Mm,
Mel, who wrote the score for the movie,
mm,
comes in through Chirac, really.
mm.
And how Sylvia Robinson set all of that up at Sugar Hill. So that's how he comes in. But again, to Wave's point, that is because Mr. Harry Belafonte was willing to listen to us. Watch this, who were kids, but we were experts in our own field.
Right. And
right.
that's a wise man right there. Now, one thing people probably don't, I mean, I guess people of a certain age would know, but during those times, the older generation hated on hip hop
Mhm.
terribly. and honestly continued to hate for a long time. What you got to say? What you got to say?
The haters made us greater.
No. When I took Michael Holman out to lunch one day, and I did a documentary called Wave, a True Story in Hip Hop.
Okay.
Because we never really tell the truth, a lot of us. And we don't tell the truth, and not about what we've been, what we've done, but about our pain.
Right.
And a lot of haterism destroyed the connection of the of old school to first generation, the second generation, the third generation, because second generation was never good enough,
right?
Which allowed third generation to lose the teachings and the growth from the first generation. No one's fault, but again, the story depicted on Beach Street showed that we would support everyone and everything in every way possible. When we're kids designing a craft, we're protected and overprotected of that craft. When you start to see it making what they call money, finances, you start to get a resentment, but you're not in touch with yourself, with your own space. So you use that negative energy to just denounce.
Yeah.
And, for me, I've kept my nose clean. So what comes out of here, from here, I have no baggage, no real baggage. So if I'm saying with you, this is not how I feel. This is how the masses now understand it. And so now at some point you have to merge, because just look at it this way. Jay-Z could do a record with Special K today, and Special K is rich tomorrow. Why not? Not because Special K can't rhyme. What did you do to bridge that gap? So your point is well taken and received, and this is one of the answers. It's because we were protected. And I always say this, and then I'll let Debbie speak. Hip hop of the 80s is equivalent to Woodstock of the 70s, never to be repeated. So it's guarded.
Right.
Make sense?
I think that's a good way to basically end it. I mean, we definitely garden it.
Yeah. I got a couple more. I got a couple more for y'all.
Sure.
Can we take a break? No, just kidding.
I won't hold you much.
Really joking.
No, we're on a roll.
So the Olympics will have break dancing. They don't call it b-boy, b-girl. Break dancing.
Wait. Let me just say one thing. It's breaking that's going to the Olympics. It is not b-boying that's going to the Olympics. And I always like to be really clear on that, and particularly with kids, because again, as one who is all about female empowerment, if you say it's b-boys, then what you just did was you just excluded girls.
I said b-girling.
I know you said breaking, and I applaud you for doing that, but I just want
b-girling right afterwards. See?
No, because you know why? So many times you see, even in books, and because this is going to be going out to the audience, I want people to understand that the element is called breaking. It's not called b-boying. B-boy is because you are a boy, and b-girl is because you are a girl who does breaking.
Well, b-boying stems from not just the dance. Boogie boy, Bronx boy, b-boy. Just the Bronx narrative starts with the B. That's why they branched off to b-girls, b-boys and b-girls. But the B is for all of the B's that made the culture what it is. So that the Olympics now, the term breaking and a lot of the terms hip hop, a lot of the terms being used now have come from, and people don't like to acknowledge this, but white people didn't like to call it what it was back then. And so when you get on the news and you get the platform, they change some things. They change names. And so we never called it breaking.
Right.
to that extent all the way back then. And so there's other narratives I won't get into, but the fact that it's going to the Olympics, and what people still don't understand, because they segregated the culture, there's elements, the B boys and girls, there are a billion of us. It's a planet of us that are dedicated to the dance. And to Debbie's point, there's a lot of B girls, a lot of famous B girls. And so if you say B girl, you got to say B boy, vice versa. So what's the Olympics has recognized, because the Olympians were getting crushed because the guys that learned how to break were excellent flippers. When we were in the Bronx, we flipped in the abandoned lots with bricks on old mattresses. They became breakers. So the skill set, and they became powerful because there was listen to me, we had no training.
Right.
No one trained me how to dance. No one trained Debbie how to MC. We had no classes, no schooling.
Exactly.
This is all God. This is all God.
Yes.
So you take a B-boy, B-girl flipping on mattresses with a little bit of this heart, doing some undeniable crazy stuff, and now they know how to break dance too. The Olympians started seeing some real dope stuff coming out of there. The windmills, the flares, and they started adding it to their routines. So that means you had to take another look at what was happening over there. Then Asia jumps in, Poland jumps in. Now what you have is dominating power moves. We had a cat named Alex on New York City Breakers that could do 100 head spins. At that time, that was unimaginable. But we would go from one move to another slowly. They go into power, difficult moves that would net them 10 against an Olympian.
Right.
So a gymnastic person could get on this side of the room, and you put one of these newer people, the breakers on the other side, and the crowd would not even look over there. They've had to merge it. So it was a robbery.
Right.
And if you actually Swift, some other people, but it was conglomerate move that helped us and will help us at the end of the day, is to make their skill set better.
Right.
The Olympians. Does that make sense? Their floor dance, their floor moves.
Okay.
So we had a guy named Flint Rock. Do the math.
Flint Rock, yeah, of course.
Yeah, he was good too.
Last question: what is hip hop without Mr. Harry Belafonte and Beat Street? If Beat Street never happens, what's hip hop look like?
To be honest with you, that's an oxymoron. That's a question that can't be answered. And I try to tell this to people all the time, because things morph and things are created. And we're doing moves from the 1800s and the 1400s. To say that it would never have happened, that without Mr. Wade, there would not be the twins as dancing with Beyonce, is ludicrous, because the world keeps moving. We live and we die. And there's only so many things, so much positions that I can do, create an illusion. I combine mime with waving, with ticking, with popping, that gives me you Mr. Wade. Does not mean that somebody wouldn't have combined mime, ticking, and popping. I did it to get into New York City Breakers, and it worked. I didn't audition.
Right.
I went there for an audition, but did not. So who's to say there wasn't another me 5 years down the road, or another Harry 5 years down the road? I just think that he had moved a situation closer to help me and Debbie and the rest of us than could have been imaginable. Could have been 20 years down the line. Could it be last year that the movie came out? Go ahead, Dad.
Well, I was going to say he had done so much for us as far as just young artists, and that's what I do today. I work with emerging artists. Again, I have a position as a pioneer in residence at New Jersey PAC. And I came in as a performance coach, you
Mm.
know, because I just looked at a performance that they did and said, if that little guy would have did X, Y,
There you
and
go.
you know, and that's how I got the position. And so um, I think all of us, what we got an opportunity to do something, and back to your statement earlier, I think what was ingrained in all of us is that we have to make sure that we pay it forward.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Pioneers today, I think that's the one thing that we all are doing now. We all have our hands, whether we
Not
on
all.
video or TV, well, the majority of us, we got our hands, you know, some of us is more larger than others, but for the most part, we got our hands out there. Sometimes it may not never be seen, but a little kid on the street, we're trying to pay it forward. We're trying to
Mhm.
tell a kid, you know what, that's not the route that you want to go. But some of
It's
what
a
we
lot
do is
more
more
people in school
magnified than
teaching.
others.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, all of us are doing something
And
along
for
the
me,
way.
it's a different angle. Remember, I told you when I first stepped on the stage for the president, was my first show. I gained what they call insight. I
Mhm.
was
And
I
this
was
and
out of
this
body.
this was Ronald Reagan, by the way.
Yes, Ronald Reagan,
Right. Go
Captain
ahead.
Dunham, Barishnikov, Gene
Mhm.
Kelly, all of them were there.
Yeah.
Frank Sinatra is the one who brought us down, and then brought us to the second one with Bush. But this is what I do. You
You
can't
can't
erase me.
erase me. Okay.
And
Mhm.
see the elements up here.
I
So
mhm.
I do documentaries. I'll send you something. I do documentaries now. I started a company called Real Song Productions.
Okay.
And my first project was You Can't Erase Me. It's an 8 episode series that we're shopping now.
Okay.
But I've done the story or told the story of DJ Yellow, of Alonzo Williams, World Class Wrecking Crew, JJ Fad.
Mhm.
All these are coming out. Special K, Sparky D, and so on and so on and so on. Because you can't erase them. You
Yeah.
can't erase Debbie D and Rock and Lisa. You can't erase Mr. Wade.
Mhm.
So what better way? And remember in the beginning, I told you what Harry taught me is the ability to see and understand Hollywood versus the expectation, and then there's the norm.
Mhm.
There's the part that nobody talks about, and he was able to get that out of some of us, you know,
Gotcha.
within the story, out of our culture. Well, I get it out of individuals. And so
Okay.
these stories are deeper and they're darker, but they're the truth. Hip
Okay.
hop's truth haven't been told.
Mhm.
So because of Beat Street, I am a producer and a director.
Nice. That's what's up. That's amazing. You know, I was with Karis one the other day, and he said something. He basically said the people who invented reading couldn't read. The people who invented math couldn't. They didn't know math. You know, it didn't exist. Same with science. And you know, I just want to say to you guys, and in honor of Mr. B, thank you so much for the things that you've done. Obviously, they may have existed in some form or another, but as it relates to the culture of hip hop, I just have to say that myself and others like me are extremely grateful, and we would never uh, um, contribute to erasing the pioneers and the legends. In fact, we're double down on it. So
Thank you.
again, thank you very much, Mr. B, wherever you are. Thank
Well, we
you
know.
Thank
for
you.
everything.
Yes.
By the way, I did have the pleasure of interviewing him, and that was amazing. And he was so, you know, I think you mentioned earlier, charming. I
Mhm.
got this big cheesy smile because he cracked
Mhm.
a joke and they snapped the picture right at the joke. And I was like, oh, this guy right here. You know,
Priceless.
A humble
Priceless.
soul.
Mhm.
I just want to say, lastly,
There you
excuse
go.
me if
Take
I
a
may.
second. Take a second.
I just want to say thank you to all the fans. You know, thank you to Mr. Harry Belafonte and everyone else. But thank you to all our loyal fans.
mhm,
Next year, B Street will be 40 years. We did a 35th anniversary. Hopefully, we'll get a chance to do the 40th,
yeah,
and
yeah.
more of us will be able to get together. But I just want to thank all the loyal fans over these years, and continue to follow me. My memoir is going to be coming out real soon, and I got a big section on Beach Street, so I'll be dropping a lot of dibs on that. And I'm looking forward to all the other things I'm going to be doing.
All
And
So
right.
I
stay
and I
connected.
and I too want to thank my millions of fans.
Yeah.
Um, I'm humbled by you and for you, um, and that's why I still dance today. I'm
mhm,
able to. If you go to You Can't Erase Me You can see some of the trailers of these legends. And I just think that is also educational. And so me and Debbie provide the same thing in two different ways. So she's an educator, and I am a filmmaker that has a whole lot of history and education within my work. And that's all contributed to, us having that exposure.
Yes,
So we want to give these kids that exposure.
absolutely.
Well, thank you very much. I won't try to battle y'all or nothing like that, but
Well, you got too much shoulder in there, baby. You gotta elevate. You gotta rotate. No, rotate, baby, rotate. You gotta rotate. You gotta spin it.
You don't seem like you have bones, brother. I ain't gonna lie.
That's what Bob Hope said.
Hopefully we'll get
Thank
to
you.
meet at some point.
Where you at? We will.
I'm on the East Coast. We're not far.
Okay, that's what's up.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chuck. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Blessings.
All right. Peace.
One.